As the days go by since the assassination attempt on President Trump, the amount of information that is being revealed, and I might add, not in a coherent or comprehensive way by the Biden regime, but by various news organizations and leaks to various news organizations and so forth, as you puzzle this together, this doesn't add up. What do you mean, Mark? What do I mean? The people at the rally saw the guy on the roof with a rifle. The people at the rally saw the guy roaming around 30 minutes before President Trump was on the stage. I'm just going by the reports and the videos. The local police were traffic cops. I explained this earlier this week, that the police department was small. They're not trained to handle a presidential event, for God's sakes. You have a counter sniper. They keep calling the gentleman a counter sniper, right? Well, what's a counter sniper? A counter sniper is a sniper that's looking for other snipers. We keep hearing that indeed local police called into whomever, we don't know, to alert them of events, of suspicions. We hear that Secret Service personnel were calling into, we don't know, to alert them that there might be an issue. Who was in charge on Saturday? Who specifically in the chain of command was in charge of protecting President Trump on that day? Who is it? Now, obviously, the director of the Secret Service has demonstrated herself to be a complete incompetent. And I noticed the media have stopped talking about her being an appointee pushed by Joe Biden. And I noticed they stopped talking about the fact that she was pushing for 30% women Secret Service agents. You don't push for Secret Service agents based on their genitalia, or for that matter, anywhere in law enforcement or the military. But that aside for now. The excuse is a sloped roof? I mean, we're an advanced country. The most technologically advanced country on the face of the earth. We can't get a simple answer? The Biden administration is stonewalling us. They're going to have an independent investigation. We don't need an independent investigation. We need answers right now. Who was in charge? Release every piece of information you have right now. Release all the audio. Release all the video right now. It's amazing that the Biden administration was in a rush, a hurry, to prosecute Donald Trump, the DA in Georgia, the DA in Manhattan. We got to get a conviction. We got to get a conviction. Are you seeing the same vigor as you saw with these prosecutions? You're not. You're not. There's been talk, reports at least, that the B team, the C team, in addition to some from the A team, were protecting President Trump. Well, is it true or not? There have been reports that the amount of resources applied to protecting Trump were not adequate. Then there's a report that we just learned from a week ago that the Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran has a hit out on our president, President Trump. Meanwhile, a 20-year-old climbs a wall, goes to the top of a building, in sight of the Secret Service snipers, in sight of the audience, and pops off a bunch of bullets. Let's assume for a moment that it was utter incompetence. Let's just assume that for a moment. Utter incompetence. In the Secret Service. At the highest levels. In an area like this, the protection of a presidential candidate, why is it that we rely on the federal government for our health care? Why is it that we rely on the federal government for supporting public education? Why is it that we rely on the federal government for all aspects of our life? That we want to give them more power, more money, more authority? They're already ubiquitous in our culture and our society, but more and more and more centralization of authority. And what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you have more and more centralization of authority, you have more and more incompetence. The government wants to take over everything, but it can't run anything. The border's wide open, and it's the federal government's responsibility to secure it. Our military's undersupported, underfinanced, and yet clearly that's a federal government responsibility. Ensuring that the currency that the government provides, the currency that has the full faith and credit of the United States government behind it, isn't devalued by inflation and massive spending. Well, obviously, it is. And so they can't even do that right. I mean, the Democrat Party doesn't even know how to nominate a presidential candidate. And we give them more and more power. No. This is clearly a responsibility not of local police, of the Secret Service, of the federal government. This Department of Homeland Security needs to be broken up. You want to know why? Because we don't have Homeland Security with the Department of Homeland Security. We don't have secure borders. And obviously, the Secret Service under the Department of Homeland Security failed Donald Trump. That's the way it is. No more. I'm not talking about the little guy. I'm not talking about the big guy. I'm talking about the entire entity until we figure out what the hell's going on here. And then, the same media that has spent years dehumanizing Donald Trump, the same Biden administration that has spent years dehumanizing Donald Trump, dehumanizing Trump supporters, the same party is now spewing the most contemptible, unconscionable conspiracy theories imaginable. Michael Steele, Joy Reid, and a dozen others. Less than a week after the assassination attempt. Less than a week. Did he get stitches? Where's the pictures? Where's the medical reports? Joy Reid with her posts and her comments. And then, of course, they're very concerned that too many Americans will have sympathy for the former president, that they might say, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm going to vote for him. No, we can't have that. We can't have that. And then it's Donald Trump's fault and his supporters' fault for contributing to the violent language in this republic. I want to play something for you from April 1st, 2023. And I found this, Mr. Producer, because it was put out by Media Matters. You remember that? Media Matters attacked me. This is a Soros front group for saying what I said well over a year ago. And this is what I said. Cut 22, go.
The media, Democrats, and the Democrat Party and so forth, they've attempted to turn Donald Trump into a non-human. In fact, they've attempted to turn you into non-humans. You hear it all the time. You and I are responsible for insurrections. You and I are responsible for racism in a white-dominant society. You and I just won't relent to accepting redistribution of wealth, massive increases in taxes, a bloated centralized government, equity over equality, transgendering our children, critical race theory. We just are standing in the way of progress. And Donald Trump is standing in the way of progress, too. They've rounded up so far 1,000 people from January 6th, all of whom now have the scarlet letter of some kind of criminal plea agreement or prosecution that they will wear on their foreheads for the rest of their life. The U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., who has refused to prosecute almost 70% of the criminals who've been brought to him by the local police chief in the police department, because in D.C. it's the U.S. Attorney who does those prosecutions, has said there's at least 1,000 more people they intend to round up. This is intended as an intimidation tactic, just as arresting and prosecuting people who protest in front of abortion clinics. And yet we learned the other day that from on high, the Attorney General and the other reprobates at the Department of Justice, that the U.S. Marshals were basically told not to arrest and apprehend individuals who were intimidating Supreme Court justices after the Dobbs decision. People like to say there's two systems of justice. If you don't have one system of justice, there's no system of justice. Period. There's no system of justice. And that's the problem. When you lose the law, you lose your country. The Constitution doesn't matter. The criminal code is used against your opponents. It's politicized. You have the growth of a police state. That's exactly what's happening in this country. There is simply no question about it. And we know who's taken us down this road. It is the Democrat Party and their media.
Why do the media call Trump Hitler? Why did Joe Biden have that speech at Independence Hall? With exquisite detail in the lighting to make it seem so thoroughly ominous. Why was the core of their campaign to accuse Donald Trump of wanting to be a dictator, to accuse Donald Trump of wanting to destroy democracy? He was president for 4 years. He wasn't a dictator. He didn't destroy democracy. He challenged an election. You're allowed to challenge an election. He didn't tell those people to go riot like Maxine Waters has done and other Democrats have done. No, he told them to peacefully talk to their representatives. He offered 10,000 National Guardsmen. But it doesn't fit into the narrative. What the Democrats and the media have said, and by the way, the Never-Trumpers have said about Donald Trump, is reprehensible. What they've said about you, tens of millions of Americans, MAGA, make America great again. Yeah, that's so offensive. They spew Marx. They spew Lenin. They spew all the hate of the Marxist, Islamist left. Their supporters are in the street talking about the extermination of the Jews. We had cities burning in 2020. We were told they're peaceful protests. But it's MAGA. And yet, as Judge Jeanine so brilliantly put it the other day, Donald Trump was almost assassinated and you didn't see any riots by any Trump supporters anywhere on the planet.